but that was actually like the first time I competed outside of England since COVID.
Okay.
So it's kind of a big deal, and it's kind of be good to be traveling again. And Nick Taylor always puts on a good event for the players, and yeah, I managed to play well throughout the tournament, kind of getting to the final without kind of dropping many games. And then in the finals, it was a really, really long and brutal match, and like it kind of got a bit, let's say, got a bit physical the closer it got. And unfortunately, the other guy took it a little bit too far in the fifth game. We were at about like 95 minutes at that point, and then got to the point where I was like 6-1 and leading, and I kind of like got forced to stop the match due to a bit of excessive physical contact. But that's been resolved now between both of us, and yeah. But no, overall, it's a really good tournament out there. I think it's been a really, really good year for me, and it's nice to like consistently put good tournaments back to back together, and like win quite a few events and climb up the rankings. I think I was like 150 odd just after COVID, and then like the year later, I managed to get up to around 60ish, 60, 61. So I can't be too unpleased with that. It's gone better than I probably thought and hoped it would. The first match was, I had a bit of a shocker really. I played all right, but I just somehow managed to find a way to win 3-2. And then in
Victor.
the second round, yeah, Victor Bertus, and then so I snuck that one. And then I played Joe Lee in the quarters. I think he was the one seed. I'm not sure, but like I played him 4 times that season and lost 3-love every time. So I went into that match with kind of no pressure and just see how well I can do it. I found myself 2-love up, and then I dropped the next two, and then managed to win the fifth quite convincingly.
Mm-hmm.
And then that put me into the semis, and I felt pretty confident going into that. I felt a bit fatigued and tired because 2 tough 5-setters made me feel a little bit like drained and stuff. But I managed to find a way again in that match to not prolong it too much more than an hour. And again, that fifth game, I managed to win quite well. And then in the final, probably the weirdest feelings. That was probably the best I felt all week, even after 3-3-2s. The first 2 games, I was a little bit like sluggish, but then I kind of got stronger as the match went on, which is kind of strange.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the end of the fifth game, I felt like I had another game in me, and that was like an 85-minute match. So it's kind of one of the weirdest weeks of my squash career, but probably I would still say that's my most proudest PSA Tour win so far. Yeah, I guess a lot of my training's geared around putting like tough days back to back in training. So like I'll do like 4 or 5 tough days in a row, and then maybe take a day or two a bit lighter. I think those kind of sessions and days help prepare for these types of matches, because there's so much stress and pressure that goes into these matches that you've got to do as much as you can in training to be prepared for them. Yeah, no, again, a great tournament for a really, really great cause as well, and just a really well run event. And like, yeah, it's nice to come away with a win there. And Tori, like you said, Tori almost won and just lost in the final. But it's really good when we can travel together. I think whenever we can, we try and choose to. It's always good to have like a travel companion, someone that you can talk to and just like train with and hang out with, especially when you're like going to new places and new tournaments and stuff. Yeah, that was a really positive week for me, because like I said, I came off the back of like a 4 or 5 week training block after the Northern Joe Cup, and I went to the Nash Cup. But I knew every match I had would be really tough. Like even my first round, I had Alfredo Avila, and I think he's done like 9 or 10 PSAs, and he's only ever come second or first. So I knew going into that match it would be tough, and I managed to get through that 3-love. So that kind of put me in a good stead for the week. And then I backed it up with a good win against Andrew Douglas, and then managed to beat Henry Leung in the semis from Hong Kong. And in the final, I think it was one of those ones where I was kind of a bit shocked to be in the final, but then yeah, that didn't produce my best squash. But I can't take anything away from Nathan that day, because he played really, really well. But it was just nice for me to jump that bridge between the 10K and 20K and actually make a final and put in a good performance all week. Yeah, it's really tough to make those jumps, especially like you can get like lots of good wins here and there, but if you're not like reaching finals or even like winning titles, it gets really hard to move anywhere. Because like a couple of weeks ago in the Czech, I had a couple of good wins, beat Mossad in the second round, and then like lost in the tight match with Dimitri in the quarters of the 30K. But that only gets you a certain amount of points, and that really only keeps you where you are. So it doesn't, sometimes it doesn't matter how big your win is, you have to keep winning for you to actually like jump up the rankings. So it's a really tough spot to be in right now. So I've just got to put in a good block this next over Christmas, and hopefully by the time the new year comes around, I'll be able to consistently back up those results. The whole event was just, there's just such a different feel going to those events, that type of event compared to the lower Challenger Tour events. It's just to be among those top players and see what they're doing on a day-to-day basis, the organisation, everything, the preparation needed. It just felt so much more professional, and it's exactly something I want to be involved in for nearly every tournament. So
yeah,
I'm doing whatever I can to be in more of those platinum events this coming season. To get in those platinums, I need to be at least in the top kind of 50-ish bracket, unless I sneak in with like a late withdrawal or something. So if I want to get in those platinums consistently, I've got to get my ranking up a bit higher, and to do that, I've got to continue to do those 20Ks and 30Ks and get into the latter stages of the semis and finals. That's where the bigger points are. I
yeah,
can't see myself doing any 5Ks anymore. Maybe the odd 10K here and there, depending on what the schedule is looking like. But I've got to be doing those 20s and 30s and sneaking in those bronzes and trying to get some good results in again. I'd like to see myself definitely inside that top 40 in the world and getting to those platinums and getting through a round or two in those, and trying to reach the last 16, last 32 of those platinum events and pushing those top 20 players now.
yeah,
I went from like last year not ever having played a top 30 player to like within the last 6 weeks to playing like 5 or 6 top 30 players, and that's what I need. I'm learning so much just from playing those players, and I feel that every time I play them, I'm getting a little bit closer, and you're learning more about yourself, about the type of game you need to play against those top players, and I just want to have more of those opportunities the rest of the season.